welcome to my video. Alright, I was just about to make a video earlier, but somehow Pipewire just stopped working. So my audio wasn't working, my microphone wasn't working. Some reason it was trying to use my PlayStation 5 controller microphone for some odd reason. And then I tried to reboot the system, then I had a long wait of systemd trying to stop process, especially Pipewire. So, Fedora, what are you doing? I'm trying to make a video on you and brag you up and say, I like this distribution. But what a way of crapping out like that before I start doing a screencast. Anyways, hi, welcome to my video. So I'm going to be talking about me stop using Gentoo, and there's no reason why I stopped using Gentoo. There's no reason. There's no particular reason. There's nothing really wrong using Gentoo on my B550F or 550 plus. I mean, B550. I wanted to get the B550F, but I found it was too expensive, so I got the Prime Plus B550. ASUS motherboard. I do have the B550A, which is the same thing as the B550F. The only difference is that it doesn't have lights and it's more minimalistic and it's white. And I like the color better. So, but other than that, they are the same boards. Like, I mean, they have the same specs. There's the B550 Plus is kind of like the B550F and A. The only difference with this board is the Prime. It's not the ROG Strix. It has a different audio. It uses Realtek instead of the ASUS Audio Stream, whatever it's called. I don't freaking know. It doesn't use the better audio hardware on the board, and also it has like cheaper like ISO and like the ISO shield separated as the ROG boards. They already have the IO shield is built into the board, so it makes it easier to put into cases compared to the Plus. And the Plus board is made a little bit cheaper, I find, compared to the ROG Strix. And you're paying, you get what you pay for pretty much. Anyways, it has nothing to do with talking about the ASUS motherboards here. Though I will never get another Prime. Not saying the Prime ASUS boards are bad, but I could easily afford the ROG. I was just being cheap for some reason. I don't know why. Because I never had a Prime board, so I just wanted to buy and see how it is. A pretty good board. It's not a bad computer board, but I prefer ROG Strix. And if I ever get another motherboard, it will be an ROG Strix. And I want to get another motherboard just for this PC, so I can have an ROG Strix on it. But I'm not going to do that because this board is not bad, and it's better than the B350F motherboard. That board is old, and this is a good replacement of that board. Also the case. This is pretty much a brand new computer. Anyways, let me continue with this video. So, Fedora 39. Why did I choose it over Gentoo? Why did I choose it over Arch Linux? Why did I choose it over all the other distributions that we have out in the Linux space, world, whatever you want to call it? The reason why I choose Fedora, because I really like Fedora. I like the DMF package manager. I like the ButterFS out of the box. I like that it comes with ButterFS Assistant. It comes with Snapper, and it has a plugin for Snapper as well for DMF. And that's all out of the box. You can install it easily, set it up easily within the DMF repository. You don't need to add RPM Fusion. Though I do add RPM Fusion anyways, and I like to use it. I think it also adds RPM Fusion if you do when it adds this third-party repository. I think that's what it does. It adds RPM Fusion, but I still add it anyways. I don't know why. But I noticed when I did an update with the refresh of DMF, it did show the RPM Fusion. So I think that's what it did. But anyways, I added it anyways. So I gotta say, it does work really good. I installed the NVIDIA driver. It is using Wayland. That could be why it's crapping out. I'm using Wayland on GNOME. It is pretty stable for the most part. Though I think I'm just gonna use X11, Xorg session or X11 session, or what it's called. Basically the old the original session before we had Wayland. It seems to be more stable with GNOME. But with Wayland, I'll test it out. But I have like PTSD when it comes to Wayland because I had bad experience with it on NVIDIA cards and using it on KDE 6 and also using it on an AMD graphic computer. My B-Link is a pure AMD system. The GPU is AMD graphics because the CPU uses it has a built-in GPU with the CPU, which is called APU, and that's what the mini PC has. So I don't have other graphics in there because it's a small computer. You can't fit a graphic card in there; it's too small for it. Even a small form factor card wouldn't even fit in there. It's that small. It's the size of my PlayStation 5 controller. Actually, I think the controller is bigger than the box itself. It's a pretty small computer. That's what they call a mini PC. But it has an APU. Which is AMD APU. Anyways, Wayland is supposed to work good with AMD GPUs. I have problems with that as well. So you just can't say AMD is the solution for Wayland because it does have problems with AMD graphics as well. I also had problems with AMD GPUs on my ASUS PCs because before I had NVIDIA, I had an RX 6600 and my B550A, and it worked fine with Wayland for the most part. But when it came to gaming, though, that's where I see a lot of shit happen. See, that's the opposite with NVIDIA. Gaming is great with the NVIDIA graphic card on Linux, but when it comes to the desktop, it's kind of crappy. And AMD is the opposite. When it comes to the desktop, it's great with Wayland, but when it comes to gaming with Wayland on the AMD GPU is crap because they don't have the best drivers, but the non-free drivers work really good for gaming. Even if the desktop experience is not always great with the NVIDIA non-free drivers, the gaming experience on NVIDIA on Steam is really great. That I will say the reason why I got an NVIDIA card is for gaming. But anyways, yeah. Why I left Gentoo? Well, I like Gentoo. I got a stage 4 anyways backed up, so if I ever want to put it back on, I could put it back onto any computer I have and that I own easily. So that's one reason. And another reason I don't want to do Gentoo because right now they had a problem with Vulkan and FFmpeg, which won't let me compile it because there's something broken with Mesa. And some reason Gentoo, when it comes to package management, they're really slow, so it takes them a very long time to fix something, and it's still broken now. So that's why I'm like, what the hell? Well, why are they so slow at fixing things? So that is one thing. So maybe it's fixed now. I hadn't did it sync, so I probably is fixed now. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe so. I just didn't care. I did install Fedora in my previous video because on the B-Link, because of Gentoo would keep powering off my device and other things, like it wouldn't detect the Bluetooth, but then when I upgraded the system, it started working. The Bluetooth started being detected, but it still was powering off randomly all the time, and I just don't know why I was doing that, to be honest. And the GNOME desktop would always crash for odd reasons. It would just power off the computer. It would crash. Sometimes it would just go to the login screen. But when it goes to the login screen, the GDM, it would start crashing. It's really weird. So this here is using Wayland. And I hadn't really tested fully or used the desktop that much. But so far it's working pretty good. But that's the thing. They worked pretty good at first with KDE 6, and then after a while just using it, I started noticing some bugs. So I will definitely be testing out Wayland with GNOME with the NVIDIA proprietary drivers and let you guys know how that is. Because right here I am using 550.67. These are the proprietary drivers. So yeah. So it's working really good. And why do I choose Fedora over all these other distributions? I didn't really answer that question, didn't I? The reason why I choose Fedora is because it's back behind like Red Hat and pretty much a lot of like big corporation. They like Fedora. 'Cause Fedora goes into Red Hat. A lot of the stuff goes into Red Hat. So Fedora is basically the testing ground, but it's also pretty stable. Like they have stable packages, and pretty much the Linux kernel it's not the latest, but it's not behind either. It's not roll and release style kernel, but it's pretty close to it. But the packages kind of stay like on the stable kind of side to things instead of like bleeding edge or roll and release style like Arch and Gentoo. So that's one reason why, and because of the backdoor and the upstream and all that, how vulnerabilities can like get into Linux really easily, as the XZ backdoor proving the fact that it's not really hard to inject the backdoor if people are not paying attention. And also if people are kind of fed up with the project and they're just not really giving a crap, they just want to just hand it down to the next person and just get away from it. That, and also the stable side of things, like the backdoor wasn't on the stable Fedora, wasn't on the stable Debian. It was on the roll and release of things, or pre-release things like Fedora pre-release and Rawhide and Debian unstable, and pretty much roll and releases in general. Even though Arch say that they weren't affected, even though and they had the effective version, I don't really care what Arch says. Having 5.6.1, even though if they patch it, it's still I don't trust it. Not right now. I think that they should have just rolled back down to like 5.4, at least 5.4, 5.3. I know this uses 5.4.4. But anyways, that's not a reason. It's stable workstation, like Fedora workstation is on the stable branch, and it works really well as well. I do like DMF. It's a great system. I always like Fedora. The main thing I don't like about Linux in general is Wayland. I think Wayland will be good once they have it, sorted out. Once they have it stable and working really well. I think once they have it working well with Intel graphics, working well with AMD and NVIDIA, like once it's working really good with all the GPUs that are available for PCs, I think for a fact it will be a better display server for Linux. But right now it's still kind of buggy, and especially NVIDIA GPUs, it's really on the buggy side. But I will be testing it out. I hadn't really been testing out Wayland on GNOME with NVIDIA proprietary drivers, so usually it's the application of Discord and Steam that they'll flicker and stuff like that. But other than that, the system works pretty good. But KDE is a bugger a lot, though. It worked good at first. I had a lot of problems testing it out during beta and the RC releases. It worked really terrible. I was surprised they actually released on the day that they said they're going to release that. I wish they would have postponed it because it would have been a lot better choice, because I think KDE wasn't ready. It still ain't ready right now. I still think it's pretty buggy. That's why you'll see even on Arch Linux, a roll and release system of all things, still have it in their testing packages. Maybe not now, but they did before at first. But I still think KDE is buggy. I'm going to wait till 6.1 to retry KDE with Wayland on NVIDIA graphics and AMD as well, and see how well it works. But right now, 6.0, to me personally, not everybody's probably going to have the same experience as me, and not probably everybody could be as honest as me, because as much as I do like KDE, I will admit to the problem it has, even though I want it to look good and I want it to be good. But if people are not realistic and they don't point out the real problems with KDE, it'll never get improved. So therefore, that's why I'm honest about what I get experience. And I think a lot of people are just a fan of the desktop environment, that even though they have mistakes, they're not gonna or even have problems or errors with it, they're gonna be it's the best. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't have any problems with it, and they probably do have problems with it. They just won't admit it. And I know how that goes, because I've been there before. And I think reality-wise, though, it's better to, if you have a problem, say there's a problem, because that's the only way things will get fixed. Pretend things are working all right when you know it's not working all right. It's not going to resolve anything. So anyways, yeah, back on Fedora. I don't really have to make a video about this, but I really like Fedora. And I think like after all this like backdoor thing with XZ, I think the best option if people are planning to still want to use Linux, because probably some people are probably going to be scared of using Linux because of this backdoor. They're probably like they don't trust it anymore. And I don't blame you, but if they're planning to still use Linux and they're thinking twice about switching to a different desktop or a different distribution, because maybe they were on Arch Linux or another roll and release system, and they're probably thinking like maybe I should go on stable. Maybe that'd be a better idea. Maybe I don't need all my applications to be like to the latest version. Maybe stable is better because I respect my security more than having the highest latest version of the application. Maybe roll and release is not a good idea. Maybe being bleeding edge is not a good idea. Maybe testing pre-release system is not a good idea on your host system. I don't think it is, personally. But people can do what they want to do with their computer. But for me personally, I'm sticking with stable, not roll. I could say I'm sticking with roll and release. No, I'm sticking with stable systems and avoiding roll and release. If I'm going to try out any roll and release distributions, it will be in Docker or it'll be in virtual machine or a pre-release machine systems as well. I'm not going to be ever putting these on my whole system. I'm sticking strictly with stable, and to me, I choose Fedora. You can choose Debian. There's other stable distributions. There's Linux Mint. There's even Linux Mint Debian Edition, which is stable. There's a lot of different choices for when it comes to stable systems. Like MX Linux is another one. You know what I mean. There's a lot of choices, and I think that personally, just choose what you like. I think I think any Linux system is good. It's just you choose what you like and what works good for your computer. For me, I think Fedora is. I've been liking Fedora. As you probably noticed in my previous videos, I am a big fan of Fedora. I like Fedora a lot. I've been using Fedora for a very long time. Actually, I think I've been using it. I've been using it since the start of it. Like since Fedora existed in 2003. I've been trying every single release. Maybe not stick with it, but I have tried every single release that they put out, and I always do. And I always will like Fedora, and that's why I'm using it. I do like Gentoo, I like Arch Linux, but for me, I don't want them on my main system. I think for me it's Fedora. It's like an Arch, it's like a Gentoo, it's like an in between, and it's a great system. And I think everybody should definitely check it out. And it also have a good backend. And I'm sure a lot of the devs are going to keep this system, secure and good for people to use, because the developers of Fedora are very passionate people and they really take their shit serious. So honestly, if you want to donate any money to a project, I would say Fedora deserves a lot because they do a good job. Their system is professional. Got a nice installer, a clean installation. The whole presentation of the system, from installing it, getting it. Actually, you can even get Fedora Writer on Windows, Mac OS, and Windows, which they provide and make for all these systems. So you can install Fedora Linux, and it even gives you the choice to download the ISO and make the USB, which I don't see much or any distribution does that. Fedora does that, so you gotta give credit where credit is due. Fedora is a great company, a great team, a great project, and it's a great system. And I think everybody should at least check it out. I'm gonna stick with Fedora. I'm done with Arch. I like Gentoo. I will play around with it here and there. It's more me. The way I look at Gentoo is like a hobbyist kind of system for me. Like I like to just play around with Gentoo. I don't really take it as a serious production system. It's more like a fun Linux to play around with, just like Fun2 as well. It's why it's called fun too. Like these kind of systems to me personally are like hobbyist sort of like nerdy systems. Some people will use them as production systems, but for the most part, a lot of people like me like to play around with Linux. It's a great system to play around with. I think Gentoo is fun to learn. It's fun to, play around and learn how the system works. I really like Gentoo, but I prefer Fedora as my everyday kind of operating system, and I think Fedora does a really great job. Anyways, guys, thanks for the watch. This video's getting probably long, and I'm just ranting. And yeah, nice desktop, eh? That's all you're seeing, pretty much. But yeah, I basically using Tokyo night color scheme and the GTK theme. I'm using the Papyrus icons, and the extensions I'm using. I use Blur My Shell. I use Dash to Dock. I use desktop icons, and I use app indicator for the system tray. I use 4 extensions. That's all I use, and I think these extensions should be a part of the GNOME desktop, but it's not. And 2 of them are taken out of GNOME, which is system tray and desktop icons. I think that the dock should all be visible on default vanilla GNOME system, because having it hidden like this is kind of stupid, and it just takes longer to get to your applications. When it being visible on your desktop, it's easier to get to your application. I have explained this in the past, but anyways, I just think the extensions I use should be a part of default GNOME. That's why I use these extensions, because, well, like Blur My Shell is basically kind of just like an eye candy kind of thing, but it looks nice. I think that GNOME should have something like that or similar to it, just to get a little nice polish to it. You know what I mean? A little fancy, but not too fancy. You know what I mean? Anyways, thanks for the watch. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.